Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make Scotcharoos. Hey Sugar Spun Bakers, Sam here, and today I'm so excited to be sharing another carefully tested, well-researched, and perfected recipe. This is a super simple cereal bar recipe. It's kind of a cousin to Rice Krispie Treats, made with peanut butter and butterscotch flavor, and of course, chocolate. Let's go ahead and get started. Now before we get too far, the first thing you want to do is go ahead and prepare yourself a 13 by 9 inch baking pan by lining it with aluminum foil, and then we're just going to lightly grease this with a little bit of butter. This is going to make it so that your Scotcharoos come out of the pan nice and neat. All right, so once that's prepped, now let's head over to the stovetop where you're going to need a large pot. Here we're going to combine 1 cup of light corn syrup, 1 cup of granulated sugar, and I also have 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter that I've cut into 4 pieces. We'll just toss those in as well. All right, now turn your stovetop heat to medium-low, and we're just going to stir this mixture occasionally. You want everything to be nicely combined, and we're just going to stir until the butter is completely melted. Now, if you have any sugar that's stuck up on the sides of the pot, I recommend grabbing yourself a spatula and using that to scrape that down into the pot. That way it gets nicely mixed in. You really want the sugars to melt here, and they're not going to necessarily melt if they're just sitting there on the edge of the pot like that. It is important not to turn your stovetop heat up too high at this point, otherwise your sugar is not going to have time to properly melt. So just have a little bit of patience and let everything melt nice and slow. All right, so our butter is nicely melted, our sugar is looking pretty well dissolved, so now you can turn your stovetop heat up to medium or even just a notch above medium. And we're going to stir pretty much constantly at this point until the mixture comes to a boil. Now, as soon as everything's bubbling, we are going to immediately remove this pot from the heat. Now here I have 1.5 cups of creamy peanut butter. I'm going to add that into the pot, along with a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract and a 1/4 teaspoon of table salt. Now mix everything in until that peanut butter is well distributed. You want to have a nice uniform looking mixture. All right, now grab yourself 6 cups of crisped rice cereal. We'll go ahead and pour this into the pot and stir everything together until all of that cereal is well coated with that peanut butter mixture. So make sure you're scraping the sides and bottom of the pot as you go. All right, this is looking great. Everything's really well combined. So now I'm gonna grab my 13 by 9 baking pan, and I am just going to spread this cereal mixture evenly into the pan. Try to turn it so you can see what I'm doing. A couple spoonfuls left in the pot. And we're just going to spread this into a nice even layer. All right, now set this aside and we can go ahead and prepare our chocolate butterscotch topping. For this, you are going to need a medium-sized heat-proof bowl, and here we'll combine 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips with 1 cup of butterscotch chips. Now, I also like to add just a teaspoon of coconut oil. You could use vegetable oil instead. This is not necessary. You could also leave it out completely if you don't have any, but I like to add it because it's going to make the chocolate melt nice and smooth. It's going to make it spread nice and smooth, and it'll dry shiny, and it's just a nice, simple addition. Now I'm just going to kind of combine this a little bit, and we'll take this over to the microwave where we're going to heat it in about 20 to 25 second intervals, stirring well in between until the mixture is completely smooth and melted. All right, so this is nice and well melted, and we could just pour this over our cereal bars and call it a day, but what I like to do is I like to now take 1/4 cup of butterscotch chips and just add a 1/2 teaspoon of coconut oil or vegetable oil to that, and I'm going to melt this as well by popping it in the microwave in 15 to 20 second intervals and stirring well in between. Once this is nice and smooth, now we can go ahead and finish off our Scotcharoos. Now we'll start by pouring our just chocolate layer over the cereal bars. And you'll want to spread this so it's a nice even layer. All right, now take that butterscotch that we just melted, and we're just going to drizzle this over the surface of the chocolate. And I just go back and forth, and then I'll go over it the opposite way. Now just take a toothpick, and if you just drag this through those butterscotch lines, you'll get some beautiful, nice butterscotch swirls on top. Obviously, this is completely optional, but doesn't it look so pretty? Now, I recommend letting the chocolate harden before you go and dig into the Scotcharoos, but once it has, or if you're impatient and don't mind getting your hands nice and chocolatey, you can go ahead and dig in right now. All right. And that is how easy it is to make these delicious and very pretty Scotcharoos. I hope you guys enjoyed today's recipe, and if you try this one out, please leave me a comment and let me know what you think. I always love hearing from you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.